There's one hadith that gives me chills. 4 words. And I hope you'll remember this hadith if you forgot about everything else. قال لا يدخل الجنة قاطع. The Prophet ﷺ said, the one who turns his back on his family will not enter paradise. Let me say that again. The one who abandons his family, severs the ties of kinship, will not enter paradise. That is serious business, folks. Something you and I have to keep in mind. And my dear brothers and sisters, the Prophet ﷺ took it to a whole new level. In a hadith, he says, if there's one sin, ما من ذنب أجدر أن يعجل الله العقوبة لصاحبه في الدنيا مع ما يدخر له في الآخرة إلا قطيعة الرحم. The Prophet ﷺ said, there's no sin that is deserving of Allah's punishment in this world, along with whatever God has stored in the hereafter. There's no sin like that except breaking family ties. Isn't that crazy? And you know what I fear for our community is that a lot of us on Instagram and social media, we come across what we call pop psychology. And certain terms kind of drip their way down to us. Terms like narcissist, boundaries, toxic. And a lot of people I know, they are justifying being away from their families using these terms. So I'll have someone in college or someone who's a teenager, he'll come up to me and be like, my dad is really toxic. Yeah, his negative energy is just not really good for my healing space right now. So I'm just setting a lot of healthy boundaries around him. What he's essentially saying, I don't talk to my dad. But you can window dress that with psychological terms now. And it's so frustrating because it sounds sophisticated, but underneath it is the raw, ugly reality of قطيعة الرحم. And listen to this, our Prophet ﷺ told us, this is one of those hadith that should be etched onto our minds. Our Prophet ﷺ said, to help you understand what maintaining family ties comes down to. Hadith comes in Bukhari. The Prophet ﷺ says, لَيْسَ الْوَاصِلُ بِالْمُكَافِي. Don't think maintaining family ties is you reciprocating. That if my dad's good to me, I'm good back. Or if someone in my family, they text me on my birthday, I will text them back. They invite me to their wedding, I'll invite them back. They gave me $100 for my wedding, I'll give them $100. They see people keep track of that. I don't know how the Arabs roll. It's crazy. So for you, being a good family person is all about reciprocation. The Prophet was like, no, that's not what I meant when I said you need to be a good family person. Rather, being a good family person is someone إِذَا قُطِعَتْ رَحِمُهُ وَصَلَهَا. Being a good family person is when your family is trying to cut you off and you still reach out. They're trying to ghost you, you are still trying to connect. They are turning their back on you. They don't even say salam to you, not even on the day of your Eid. They don't invite you, but you still make the effort. That's what Silatul Rahim comes down to. So, my dear brothers and sisters, I like to kind of wrap up this entire conversation by actually giving you 1 or 2 tips. Practically speaking, I gave you hopefully a lot of motivation and a little bit of fear to make sure that you're not the reason, you're not the cause of there being distance in the relationship. So 1 or 2 quick tips for you. The first tip I like to share with you, if you're trying to deepen your bond with your kids, with your sibling, with your parents, whoever. First tip I like to share with you is, and I'll word it in a way which is hopefully easy to remember. I call it no connection without investment. Let me say that one more time. No connection without investment. No bond without involvement. What I mean by this, and this is a very difficult tip, it takes work, but I can assure you it pays off. What I mean by this particular tip is that if you want to have a deeper connection with your kids or with your family members, you have to invest the time to know little details about their lives. Psychologists, they recommend having a mental map of things that populate the lives of your kids. What are their fears and their fantasies? Who are their friends that they are intimidated by? Who do they look forward to meeting? Who's their favorite uncle and cousin? You have to know these details, and that takes a lot of attention, a lot of time sacrifice and investment, but then you have a lot of things you can actually relate upon. So let me give you guys 2 examples of 2 dads coming home. And I want you to see how the conversation kind of plays out with someone who has made this investment versus someone who has not. Dad 1 comes home dinner's ready. They're sitting together. He tells his son, how was school today? The son's like, fine. So dad's like, another bit for, he throws out another question. He's like, so what you got going on for the rest of the night? Nothing. And dad tries one more time. He's like, so what's going on in history class? Learning anything interesting? Yeah, we're learning Roman history. And then the father gives up and he moves on to his wife. He's like, and honey, did all the bills come home? All the bills come, and did we make the payments and stuff? Shifted the conversation. You can see the superficiality of that conversation. No genuine connection there at all. Now, allow me to share with you dad number 2. This father comes home, asks the same question, at least at the beginning. He's like, son, how was school today? Son is like, all right. And then he's like, did you finally get to play in the basketball team? Did coach finally give you some time? He's like, Dad, yes. And his face lights up. And then dad's like, and Cody didn't have a problem with that? Yeah? And coach wasn't rolling his eyes? And then he's like, well, what about Miss Patty? Is she finally off your case? She's allowing you that extra credit? He knows all these little intimate details about the mental map and the life of his kid. There's so much to actually connect upon. Problem occurs is that a lot of parents, especially fathers, they're so insanely busy, they don't have time to make that kind of investment and to make that kind of inquiry, so the conversations become so superficial. And therefore, when you don't have that connection, you don't have a lot of influence over them. And the chasm grows larger and larger. And that leads me to the final tip. And that is, my dear brothers and sisters, so in the first tip I said, no connection without investment. The second tip I say, no connection without labeling emotions. Now this sounds a lot of that fluffy, positive psychology stuff, but let me tell you, this is like real. And I've experimented with this. No connection without labeling emotions. I want you to imagine there's a board meeting happening. I'm not talking about our masjid board, I promise you. All right? So all the shura members can relax, inshallah. Imagine a board meeting, and one person, he's like, I can't believe this decision was made without consulting the entire board. I wasn't properly alerted. How can we go ahead with such a major decision? Now, if the president is not emotionally intelligent, he'll be like, what are you talking about? I sent the email. Don't you check your email? It's not my fault that you didn't check the email. And next thing you know, tit for tat, and it escalates. Emotional labeling is simply the idea is that you label the emotion the other person is feeling, and then you move on to making your point. So the president, if he were to kind of rewind the tape, he would say something along the lines of, after the person expressed their frustration, he would say, so it sounds like you are frustrated by the fact that you were not consulted at all. And this decision was made without you being in the loop. You just paraphrasing that, capturing their emotion, you do it right, they'll say, that's right. Yeah, exactly. When you hear that, you know you are on the same page, on the same wavelength. Now you have some power and influence. Imagine your son comes home, and your son is a bit overweight, and he's trying to get into the basketball team. And finally he comes home and he's kind of bummed out, and you're like, what's wrong? You seem a bit frustrated, and he's like, I didn't make the team. Why? The coach said that I did not meet the weight requirement. Now you've been asking your son to lose weight for the last 2 months, for the last 2 years. Every fiber of you wants to say to your kid right now, I told you so. Stop eating aloo and chawal. Stop stuffing your face with tater tots. You would have made that's what you want to say. You want to go all out because you're frustrated because one, he doesn't make the team and he doesn't listen to you. But you do that, you side with the enemy, and now you lost all credibility. What you're supposed to do is label the emotion. So here's what you would say. Like, I didn't make the team, overweight. You would say, that must have been awful. You must have been really embarrassed and hurt. The moment you capture the emotion and they say, yeah, you have the lifeline in a way to not communicate with them. So try this, inshallah. I try to make it as practical as possible in the 15-20 minutes I had. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that inshallah your family lives improve. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you become amazing communicators with your kids, with your family members. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that as we're trying to heal our own families, that we don't forget the families in Gaza. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Wa salamun ala al-mursalin.